Hey guys, despite all the really cool stickers I had on here to add a ton of strength to this fender piece, I managed to rip it off. The clip's on Instagram, you guys can go check that out. But I looped the bike out really badly on a hill, and this thing just popped right off. Now, it's not the first time I've broken on this bike. The bike's only 2 months old at this point. I just haven't had it that long. But it's got a really poor design coming from the factory. In my opinion, it's really not enduro ready. So the bolts that hold the sub fender on, where the light and the license plate are mounted, have these little, really thin, just a few millimeters of plastic that go around the bolts here on these rails. And they just can't hold a hit of any kind. So broken that a couple of times, finally ripped it off completely. You can see I used some oversized washers to try to get a perch on here to get it to hold, but these are just so thin, there's no way that this material was ever gonna do anything when you loop it. The Acerbis rear fender actually looks just about identical to the one that came on the bike, so I'm not sure that's gonna be a whole lot more flexible, but it didn't cost all that much, and Acerbis has a great website where you can order parts direct, so it's really kind of painless to get stuff from them. They also have this sub fender. Now, what I like about this, and I'm not sure I got the right one, they have two, so we'll try this one out. I'm gonna kind of do a review of it in a bit, but this piece doesn't have those rails that go all the way across like the factory one does. It just bolts up to the fender. Something like that is just gonna sort of bolt directly to it. So I think that's gonna work a little bit better in terms of, there's just less in there to break. I know these bikes aren't intended to be indestructible, but I would like a little bit more flex in that rear end. So we're gonna try this Acerbis setup. We'll see how it goes. I've got a ton of desert riding that's gonna be happening this weekend, so super excited to get this installed. We'll show you guys how to install it. And then, you know, we'll do a review of it later, I guess, and see if it kind of holds up out in the desert. A lot of rocks and stuff, a lot of opportunity to loop the bike. I try not to. I know it's not proper technique to go throw your bike away, but I have commitment issues. What can I say? Sometimes you've got to hit the throttle and see what happens. So let's get this installed. The first step is to remove where the existing sub fender mounted. So we'll take these bolts out. Those are what would have held the sub fender in a non-broken setup. We'll then take the seat off and pull the actual fender off, replace it, and go from there. Next, we're going to pull out the bolt that holds the seat. In this case, I've got this cool tugger strap on there, and these mounts for the tugger strap, these brackets, are pretty difficult to work with. So I'm a little bit hesitant to have to do this, but obviously I've got to get into it to get this part. That's the long bolt. On the other side, there's another bolt that holds the tugger strap in place. I'm going to try to leave that in its socket. We'll pull the seat off. Here you can see the two bolts that hold the fender in place. And I was wrong. You do have to remove the other side of the seat bolt because it goes into this fender piece we're taking out. With those two bolts, the sub fender bolts and the two seat bolts out, you could spread apart these side fenders and you'll be able to remove, in this case, what's left of this fender piece. This Acerbis piece is just about identical. So you should be able to slide it right in here. These side fenders, those tabs go into slots in the fender, and this goes underneath this ridge. Then you make sure it's shoved all the way in. Looks like all the holes line up. The seat bolt holes line up. The holes up here that actually hold the fender line up really nicely. And all these tabs line up beautifully. We'll go ahead and reinstall these bolts and then put the seat back on. Notice that I had to spread the mounting tabs on the Acerbis piece just a little bit. I'm not sure if that's how the factory one would have been. It seems like everything lines up, but they're just sort of tweaked a tiny bit in. It only really matters because these bolts have kind of a washer set on them, and part of it will actually, there's like a countersink that will go down underneath the plastic, that's so you don't smash the plastic when you're tightening the bolt down. We're now going to reinstall the seat. We're going to start with the small bolt that's on this right-hand side of the bike, because these brackets are a little bit difficult to get in place with the seat on. We're now going to mount this sub fender, which is also an Acerbis piece, right up under here. Now, it's not quite a direct bolt on. I'm not sure if I ordered maybe the wrong part or something, but it looks like it'll work. It's got 4 holes that I'm basically going to punch in the fender, and it's got a bolt kit that's going to tie it right up underneath there. And then it's got a cable. It's got a cable with a free wire end, you can see here. So I'll be putting that into the stock plug so that it can be plug and play in a way. One thing I've forgotten to do up until this point is route the wire. So what I'm actually going to have to do is open the side panel here and snake the wire through and get it plugged in inside. I'll be snaking the wire in this hole, and we'll pop this cover off of the air box here and see if we can't find where that wire connects inside there. So this has 3 mount points, actually, not 4. These holes and this one back here. I like that it doesn't have those rails that run all the way like the stock piece. This has a little bit of flex to it. I don't know what will happen when I loop it. I'll probably break it again, but at least I won't have these sub fenders here in the way that will also snap. So I think it's an improvement. We'll see how long it actually lasts. We'll route the wire across there. Installing these washers and nuts up here is actually pretty hard to do without a third party. So I have got my awesome daughter out here. He's going to hold the screw up on the top side in place while I get everything installed down on the bottom, because I've tried about 10 times and I'm going to lose my mind here in a minute. You can see here, this is a very stock fender. It's identical to stock. And these 2 screw perches are for the original sub fender pieces. We're now going to go ahead and route the wire. So here's the plug. So I've just got to route the wire in through and then connect the stock plug I cut off the other fender to these bare wires, and it should be good to go. That'll get me a brake light. The wire channel is going to actually come up here under the wheel well, and it's going to route down along here and into this airbox area. So you've got to move this panel out of the way to get it in place. So now I got this working. I'm going to wrap this in electrical tape, tuck this whole bundle up in here and zip tie it, and get all this closed back up, except I'm going to pause this video for a minute and wash my filter while I'm in here. And that's it. New Acerbis rear fender and sub fender installed. I actually think they look pretty good. Very interested to see how these parts hold up in the field. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to check out our line of helmet chin mounts for action cameras, GoPro, and other models. They're the best way to get point of view footage with a custom fit to your helmet that's not going to fall off or drill nasty holes in your helmet, and to get footage like this from your rides so that your viewers get the best perspective and the best point of view. Thanks, guys. See you next time.